Well, hello, this is Mike from Music City. Welcome to my latest installment of Ranking Records. And today we're going to look at the 6 studio albums from the British band The Jam. Now, let me start off by saying that this was a really difficult one for me. I spent a lot of time listening to The Jam and really trying to discover a band that I sadly did not pay a lot of attention to back in the day. I really got into the music of their leader, Mr. Paul Weller, with his band, The Style Council. I was a huge Style Council fan, and just kind of let the Jam kind of slip by, and so I wanted to go back and give these albums a good listen. But that's not to say that I didn't get very fortunate to have seen the Jam play actually twice. The first time I saw them was in 1977 on their first U.S. tour at CBGB's. And I wrote about that on my blog, musiccitymike.net. You can find it there. And actually, it got reprinted in this book called The Day I Was There, The Jam. There's this fellow that puts out these books where he compiles articles previously written, and I'm sure he requests some new ones. I'm actually in books that he did on Bob Dylan and Bruce Springsteen. But here he picked up my CBGB's review of the show, which really wasn't that very favorable because I got to say back then the Jam were loud and fast. It was the heyday of punk, and it just really, it really wasn't what I was all about back then. And looking back, I probably should have enjoyed it more than I did, but I didn't love it. And I didn't like CBGB's much either. Read about it in that piece. And then again, I got to see him in 1980 at a really cool venue, the Armadillo World Headquarters in Austin. And again, I don't think I enjoyed that show as much as I should have, probably because I was not as familiar with the Jam's music as I could have been. Now, interesting about that show, and I did look back to see if someone had written about it, and they do. And the thing I remembered about that show was meeting a guy who at the time was a friend of mine and later became a famous rock star, Gibby Haynes. Gibby was at the show, and there's a neat story in this book about Gibby. And the guy who wrote the piece went to the show with Gibby. How strange is that? And they talked about meeting the Jam after the show. So I'll leave that to you to be. Now, I did do a lot of reading. And again, we mentioned Paul Weller is the leader of the Jam, the main singer-songwriter, and guitar player. And, there's an uncut selection about him and a Mozo selection about him. So a lot of stuff to read. The thing about the Jam, they were just not very popular here in the U.S. They were a huge band in Britain. I think had 15 top 10 hit singles, something like that, but just never really made the big splash here in the U.S. Neither did the Style Council, and neither has Weller in his long, extensive, successful solo career in Britain. As a matter of fact, I've never got to see the Style Council, never got to see Weller. Weller, whenever he tours, he only plays like New York and L.A., so I never got a chance to see Weller. And I really am trying to make an effort to look into more of his solo catalog as well. But the rest of the Jam, just let's round out the band. You had Bruce Foxton, the bass player, also sang a couple of pretty good songs in the Jam catalog, and Rick Buckler was the drummer. And interestingly enough, these two guys, without Mr. Weller, sort of put together it's kind of strange. They put together let's call it a Jam tribute band called From the Jam, and they picked up someone else to take Weller's place, and they still, sort of regularly tour in the UK. Now, one of the things about the Jam is. And Weller was great at it. Don't get me wrong. He was a very great, still is a very great songwriter. And, he wasn't writing about happy times. There was a lot of social strife, social injustice going on in England and London, back in the time period. And I'm looking at my notes from 77 to 82. When they put out their 6 albums, and even the happy songs, happy sounding songs weren't really happy. So he was really writing a lot about the things about society and the government that he was troubled by. And, he like I said, he did a great job about it too. And, and I mentioned, that the punk sound, I mean, the first 2 albums were really, really, I'll call punk records. They came out in 77. They put out 2 in the same year. And if you want to compare them maybe like to the Sex Pistols or the Clash, You know, I think their songs were better written, you know, than those early bands. And I think Weller was really a very good guitar player and very much underrated in terms of being a punk guitar player. But I think what's real interesting too is, you know, they were not afraid to acknowledge their roots, you know, and maybe some of it was an act where, you know, Johnny Rotten was, you know, dissing everybody who'd come before him. I mean, you know, look at the way that you know, you look at the way the Jam was dressed. I mean, they dressed like mods. They loved the Who. They loved the Kinks. And on these records, I mean, there was a lot of they did a lot of cover versions. You know, it's funny, you see they did things like In the Midnight Hour and Heat Wave, Slow Down, you know, something that the Beatles had covered. So it you know, very interesting in that respect. Now, here's something I'm going to go out and, like I said, you know, if you're a big, huge Jam fan, you know, you're going to walk all over me on this. But, you know, I kind of came away liking the Jam more than I ever did. But I can't say that there's any one album that I'm in love with. You know, maybe the Jam weren't a great album span, witnessed by the 15, you know, hit singles. And to me, it's more I'm a go-to when I want to hear certain songs. You know, so maybe a better singles band than an album span. I don't know. Tell me what you think. But again, I think I'm able to rank these albums to the ones that I like the most. And before we go into the albums, you know, they did put out a greatest hits album called Snap. And man, I found this in my collection. And this is a Laserdisc. Remember Laserdiscs? And this is Video Snap, and it's got 15 videos on here by the Jam, and it's going to make me pull out my Laserdisc player out of the closet over there and see if it still works. So I thought this would be interesting, and I saw this listed on eBay for $132. So anyway, somebody's got a Laserdisc player out there. But anyway, let's get to the 6 studio records. And if we look at them sort of in order, the first one you had was In the City, came out May of '77. 6 months later, you had its follow-up, and again, another sort of punky record, This Is the Modern World. And then they went to sort of one record a year. You had All the Mod Cons in '78, Setting Suns in '79. You had Sound Effects in '80, and you had The Gift in '82. So they skipped a year on that last one. So pretty much a record a year. And you know, my thing with the Jam is, I think as time went on, they kind of got less punky and we're getting into a more full band sound. And it's kind of funny, as you go from here to here, you see this progression, I think, of the Jam becoming more and more like the Style Council, where Weller went next after the Jam disbanded. And there's a song on the last record, The Gift, called Precious, that sounds like it came right off a Style Council record. But how am I gonna rank these? Well, to a certain extent, I just think the Jam got better as they went along, and as the band sound got fuller and fuller. I think the songwriting got a little better. The songs had more arrangements to them. They added horns and things and this and that. I just think they became a better band as time went on. So pretty much, with 2 exceptions, now I'm going to put The Gift as my number 1 Jam album. I love this record. It's got my favorite Jam song on it, The Town Called Malice, in addition to that song Precious I mentioned. In the number 5 spot, I'm going to go with Sound Effects. The song the great song on this one is That's Entertainment. Oh, I can't mention, man, go listen to Town Called Malice if you really like sort of that. I love how Weller got that Motown sound in there. It's just great. Now, but we're going to make a little skip here, and we're going to move All the Mod Cons to my 3rd favorite Jam album ahead of Setting Suns. This just has some great stuff on here. Man, I tell you something. I told you the songs weren't pretty, but man, there is a pretty ballad on All the Mod Cons called English Rose, and you just got to hear this love song that Weller wrote. It's just fantastic. Also, it's got some of their bigger songs on here. A Bomb in Wardour Street, Down on the Tube Station at Midnight, really good stuff. Again, not pretty stuff. And they also do a cover of the Kinks' David Watts, which I think is really cool. So we're going to move that ahead of Setting Suns. Setting Suns, though, you know, I'm going to put in the number 4 spot. And what I liked on here, there's a great song by Brute Foxton called Smithers Jones about a guy getting laid off from his job, becoming redundant. I think that was pretty cool. And also the song Eats on Rifles is another good song that's on that one. And then when we get to the two Punky records, I'm going to sort of switch the order. And I think that the first album, In the City, I'm going to rank above This Is the Modern World. Love the title track, In the City. They also do the Batman theme on this record. How cool is that for a punk band to do the Batman theme? And This Is a Modern World. I think the title track is the best song on here. And I think I may have mentioned they do In the Midnight Hour on this. So that's my 1 through 6 on the jam. Again, this was a joyful walk for me. Again, I don't feel real authoritative on the jam, but I'm going to tell you, I would really go and check them out. If you don't know them at all, go through the hits. If you feel like you got to buy something, see if you could buy that Snap record. I'm sure that, you can find it great on Spotify. I know there's some, if you're a jam fanatic, I know there's tons of stuff to seek out in terms of, BBC stuff, box sets with bonus tracks. There's just plenty of stuff. Again, one of Britain's greatest bands really didn't make a big splash in the U.S., but clearly, Paul Weller, a musical genius. I'm glad to have gotten to see him twice. Wish I would have got to see the Style Council and watch this space. I've really got to spend some time and show you some of those Style Council records that I really love. But hey, I got it done. I was apprehensive about this. This was not going to come out easy, but it did a little better than I thought. Thanks for all your support here. It's been a while since we did an artist. Got a couple of years lined up that I'm going to look at, a couple of great forgotten records I'm going to do. I'm going to go visit some record stores here. Things are getting a little less COVID-y here in Nashville. But again, please, thanks for all your support. Hit the like button below this video if you like what you see. Share it on your socials. And also, I'd love it for you to subscribe to the channel. Last time I looked, I was at 580. Want to get to that magic 1,000 sometime in 2021. That's my goal. But again, this is Mike from Music City. Thanks for listening.